You are watching a Fact TV presentation of the town of Swanzey.
Just, there are going to be, I'd like to keep it level funded, but there's a reality of everything. I haven't gotten the health insurance rates yet. Those should be coming out within the next month or so. And the heating and propane bids are actually due this week, Thursday, so we should be getting those. But other than that, there's, I think, I'm anxious to get in and see where we're at, and I'm hoping to no more than a 5% increase, but I don't know if that's realistic or not, but that's what I'm hoping for.
Great. Sounds good.
So if you could provide any guidance to us on what you're looking for, just, they do put a lot of time and effort into building their budgets, and if you have, whether it's a percentage or any guidance you have, we would appreciate it.
Well, we know that we're going to have somewhat of an increase with EMS services coming in, so we know that. Do we have any other projects that are being discussed?
As from a budgetary standpoint,
Right.
not anything budget. That would be more capital reserves and stuff.
So basically, we'd be looking at any potential increase in road maintenance, and then payroll, and basic inflation.
Correct, yeah.
So there's nothing else that's ringing out there.
Not that I can think of.
Okay.
Unless I'm missing something, which very well could be, but.
Not you. Not you. Mark, you comfortable with that?
Yep, 5% sounds good.
Yeah, just, a lot of the stuff that I'm concerned with is in CIP, so, budget is what it is, and I'm gonna have to.
There you go.
Perfect.
Have fun.
That was easy.
Well, it's easy now.
Right?
Wait till it comes in.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I think I'm good.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Laurie.
Yep.
The next item is minutes.
Make a motion that we approve regular meeting minutes for September 3rd.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion that we approve the non-public meetings September 3rd, sessions 1 and 2.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
See you.
Public input. Any, Mark?
I just wanted to real quick, just in case you have anything to add. So yesterday we reported to the town a concern about a water quality issue at Wilson Pond based on some August 14th testing that we do part of the VLAP program, the voluntary program that we do once a month. So with that, I had a conversation with Stefan yesterday. I had a conversation with him today. Seemed like he was in favor of doing some additional testing, but they didn't know who was going to pay for it. Lori, I don't know, give me any attention. I was talking to Stefan. I don't know if anybody has anything they can add here. Real quick, I just wanted to catch you before you walk out.
Yes, I was aware of that, and we did, I think Jay's email, we were looking into, whether it was, a private, lake, pond, whatever it is,
No, that's a different topic.
because it is a private pond, right?
No, that's
Oh,
wrong.
okay.
No, I asked you to call Fish and Game and ask why they listed as limited in their access. But that's a different issue from the water testing and the bacteria content on the pond.
Yeah, I didn't really get a chance to go, Stefan did speak to me briefly, about the test results, and I had him, check with, our finance office to see where it's come out of in the past.
Right.
So we are looking into that.
Well, the town does pay for the water testing that we do seasonally. We're talking probably no more than 2 to 4 samples at $40 a pop, so we're not talking about a large piece of money. I would think something like this would be decided pretty quickly based on the levels of E. coli that we saw in the water based on the August 14th testing. We did testing today, but we won't get those results for 3 or 4 weeks. This is something we probably need a quicker response on, so you know whether you need to put some signage to keep people out of the water. I know somebody was in the water yesterday with 2 dogs. I happened to be out in the boat and yelled to him, said, I'm not so sure you want your dogs in the water, never mind you. Not close enough to have a conversation. I know they stopped by town hall on their way out and inquired. So, we just want to protect the public interest of that body of water as well as the public who are using that water. It's low season, it's getting low season, but there's days where probably 50 people are in that water every day.
Yeah.
In and out,
I know
so-
our health officer, Stefan, is working
Yeah.
on it, that I do know, and we did have conversations, about that today.
We're just a little worried that we have a health issue that we're not addressing quickly enough. Also, dogs are not allowed at the Wilson boat launch by ordinance, of the town ordinance. So there are all sorts of things going on there that we continually try to address. But the fact that the standard for the state for E. coli presence is 400 something, and we have 2,400 at the culvert end of the pond, and the standard for swimming area is 88, and we had 245 counts, makes me wonder whether, if that's not a bad sample, it's one day in August, it's not, necessarily a continuing problem until we find out it is a continuing problem. We need to find out.
And he also
That's
added
why.
that, he was working with, I forget the name, it wasn't the state lab, but somebody.
Yeah, Dan at Nelson
Yeah.
Lab.
Nelson Labs is the
Nelson
local
Labs,
one
and he
that's
said that
one.
he would tend to go with whatever Dan was recommending, so
Okay.
that's where we're at with that.
Right.
That's good to hear.
Okay.
Well, I heard the recommendation and I don't agree with it, so at least for the culvert.
Okay.
Because when I said, at the dam, it's 286 or something. What was it last month? 14. What was it the month before? 11, okay? It shouldn't be more than 80, so that's the concern.
In the years we've been doing testing, it's never been that high. So the question is there a problem? If there is a problem, where is the sewage, which is what E. coli indicates, where is that sewage coming from into the pond? Is it coming from beyond the culvert? Is it coming from residences in that portion of Swanzey that abut the water flow from Upper Wilson Pond to Lower Wilson Pond? So We're just concerned about it, and we wanted to make sure that you heard us. And you all got my email, so it should,
It's an opportunity to be able to isolate an area that might be a problem area. Thank you, Lori.
thanks, Lori.
To isolate an area that might be a problem area for code enforcement to look further into, if that's what the test results show. But no action is not good.
When I responded to your email, it was with regard to the time sensitivity and the amount of time that it takes, which is rather extensive, and aren't there some other opportunities? And I think you mentioned Nelson Labs. Yep. So
And that's what
we should look
Stefan is
into
looking
that.
at, I think, but Nelson Labs seems to think that it's not an acute issue, and maybe they're right, but in my mind, since we've never seen things this high, something's different, and yes, we have stagnant water, yes, it's one day. I think we should throw some more tests in there to find out whether this is a real problem or not, because 2,400 versus 400, or 245 versus 80-something is a big issue, 3-4 times what the state limit is for this. And I think the town has some liability if people get sick swimming off the boat area there, and we know about it. Now, we don't encourage swimming there, we don't say swimming is allowed there, but unless you're at Swanzey Lake and they tell you to go swim over here at Wilson Pond, which they do. If you're not a town resident, you can't swim at Swanzey Lake, so it's, oh, go to Wilson Pond. So they come over to Wilson Pond, and that's, if we're directing people to swim there and we're not telling them they can't swim there and they get sick, and we know there's an issue, I think we have some liability. And I'm worried about that.
I don't think we disagree, but we didn't know until yesterday that there was an issue.
And
So Lori can communicate with Stefan. Where did the samples go that you took today?
I took them up to Concord to the lab up there. They're
So-
overstaffed, they do the whole state, these
So
volunteer
that'll be
programs.
a month, but in the meantime, is Nelson, I haven't done this in a few years, so I used to be able to go and just
I think Nelson
pull a
Labs
kit
is a
and-
1 or 2 day turnaround now, or
Right,
something like this. You have to have a sterile container, and they can give you a sterile container.
yeah,
One of us could take it out in the boat, or take Stefan out in the boat, and he can sample it, and and take it to Nelson Labs. It's just, we think it's the town's responsibility to look into this, and then we're asking you to take some leadership in that area.
yeah, we can do that.
We all assist however you need us to.
Yeah,
But best we can do is start tomorrow.
absolutely, and that's one reason why, we got those test results day before yesterday, I think it was.
Yeah, they came late Friday.
Late Friday, and they came late Friday, and we looked at them, I was away over the weekend, looked at them, and we started this process, and if we can look at it after a 3 or 4 day period here, that's great. I just don't want it to go much further, Bill.
It won't if Nelson can turn it around by Monday.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you, appreciate it.
And the other thing, just want to make sure, that they are being sent to the town.
Sorry?
The results should be sent to the town. That's how it was when it was Mike Brantley. We did change it to Lori, so hopefully
I spoke to the person who handles the email list that sends these reports out today when I was up in Concord, and I had her add Lori's email to her list, and that's all, in the future now, Lori will get a copy of the same report that I get in my case.
If there's any interpretation of it, history, whatever, she can reach out to either one of us.
Sure. No, we can do that. Thank you.
Jane.
Jane.
Jane had her hand up. I know she wanted to go first.
No,
I just wanted to catch Lori on that.
yeah, I know she had to leave. I don't know who to thank. I don't know whether it's a selectman, whether it's Lori. I'm sure it's Public Works, but I didn't realize that the signs at the end of Matthews Road are now reflective. Somehow that occurred. I didn't see it. I don't go out at night driving. I mean, I don't drive at night. My son was here. He checked it. I don't know who to thank, but I want to thank whoever it was who facilitated that. To put the fence back up, we'll keep our fingers crossed, okay? But
We'll
I
make
had-
sure that Joe DiRusso, who's,
Yep.
you know well,
Yeah,
the
make sure,
DPW
I could probably
director.
call him myself, but I know it probably had to come from you guys, so, okay?
We appreciate it. He would have worked collaboratively with the state to coordinate that, so
So
we
thank you
appreciate
very
knowing
much.
it worked out. Thanks for your push on it.
And you had a lot of patience. Thank you for your patience.
I can't know what you're saying, okay? I mean, not only did I forget the silly area, my ears again, but, okay, but I had to say, that's a little bright spot for all the things you guys have to take care of.
Thank you, Jane.
Thank you.
So I said to Jane, I said, they didn't do that for me.
Oh, yeah.
She said she was cuter, so I
Well,
guess.
there's a lot of truth to that, Mark.
Take care, guys.
Representative Faulkner, welcome. How are you, Barry?
Doing well, thank you. A while ago, I suggested to the chairman it might be good to come in and talk about legislation that might be coming up, or where we are. We're kind of at an awkward point in the process right now. The deadline for introducing new, midterm bills is Friday, so any ideas, we better get going on it pretty quickly. And the
We'd like you
time
to try to
where
do
we know
something
what's
to-
been introduced and
We'd like you to do something to reestablish local control and tell the state to go to hell, that we know what we're doing in Swansea. We'd appreciate that.
that's, yeah, it's an ongoing thing. And it's we seem to, the legislator struggles with the idea of not wanting to interfere, but then we interfere. And, I don't know how old that particular problem is, but there are things that the state thinks some people in the state think they know better. And the things that are clearly local, it's kind of hard to protect those interests. So I certainly know what you're saying.
Well, we appreciate your effort, because it came as quite a slap in the face. We've been very aggressive with our zoning ordinance. We've reduced lot size in areas of the town to make it more compatible with what's existing, and also to make it more
Well,
affordable for people to.
Statewide, they identified a problem with housing.
But this
So you
doesn't
develop
solve
a
it.
rule that applies statewide. It doesn't take into account what's happening town by town. You got to admit that Swansea's done a lot more than, well, it's done its share, maybe more, of providing opportunities for housing in particular, and development in general. And what works, well, places where you might have to force it down people's throat, you ought to pick those out very carefully. It ought to be in reaction to the local situation, rather than being a general rule that gets applied no matter whether it's useful or not.
It's grossly unfortunate that this county has done a lot to develop housing. Swansea in particular, we've got almost 500 units that will be in place over the course of 4 years. That's pretty substantial for any
Absolutely, yes.
part of the state. And it's really, as I mentioned, a slap in the face to local control. It's a real shame. And the funding isn't coming. The infrastructure requirements aren't being fulfilled, that towns are going to have to fill the void on. So it's unfortunate. We appreciate your
I hear
effort in
you.
pushing back.
I hear you, I understand. In terms of ideas, the one thing that I had been working on a little bit was trying to ride the goodwill last term or last year, I teamed up with a legislator from up the Upper Valley on covered bridge legislation. We had 2 bills that we co-sponsored. Both of them were developed in response to locally expressed needs, including Swanzey in one case, in the town of Lyme, I think, was dealing with the problem of people breaking bridges with oversized trucks. And I think we've got the legislation in place that will help address that. It still takes a long time to fix things. And I hear about that all the time. I live near a bridge, I hear about it close to home, let me put it that way. Why can't we fix it? All the tourists are here, they're looking at a bridge that's got pieces missing. And I think the solution at the state level would be pretty awkward. I think the town does have some mechanisms they could employ to recognize revenue that might come in either through fines or through payments made by people who, through their insurance companies or whatever, and make sure that can get turned around quickly to result in a repair. And I think that might be something we want to consider for budget season, local budget season. The state mechanisms that might be employed, such as an enterprise fund, are not available for this particular purpose. They'd be a little bit more efficient in terms of spending the money, but it's pretty awkward to change the state enabling legislation, but that might be something that keep in mind for the future.
Could you expand on that, Barry?
So, the town can do special revenue funds or trust funds where you put the money aside, but it has to get appropriated by town meeting. An enterprise fund is like a water and sewer fund, and that's what they're created for. If you wanted to use it for ongoing bridge repair, for example, I think we'd have to get special, have that allowed as one of the uses. You have to identify a source of funds, and that source of funds would be covering the operating costs of repairs. Excuse me. So you could set up a fund where you get in fines and payments from insurance companies. That would be a revenue stream, and your expenditures out of that fund would be limited to that, and limited to the purpose that it was created for. A special revenue fund or a trust fund would be similar in terms of setting it up, but just the extra step of having to go through an appropriation process to take money out. Right now, I think the bridge at Sawyer's Crossing Road has been missing this one little piece. I mean, it's not a huge problem, it's not a structural problem, it's just
It's a trim part of the problem.
it's just it kind of gets you to see it, and it's been like that for more than a year now. And ironically, it happened within a couple of weeks after the last time it was repaired, so.
A lot of them are doing away with all that. A lot of them are doing away with the whole ends, both ends, they take them all off now. Don't even leave them up there anymore, because they've been hit so bad.
Yeah, but
And then you lose the looks of the bridge, but
there
a
is
lot of
storage.
towns are done because of this.
Well, I think we're lucky that most of the damage it caused our local bridges hasn't been structural. It's been taking out pieces of trim. Easy enough to replace. The problem I had up in the Upper Valley was that the trucks would go down the middle of the bridge thinking they had plenty of clearance, and then would get an oncoming car on a two-way bridge, pull over to the side and start ripping out all of the roof rafters. A very expensive repair, and one that is structural. So people like the bridges. They are an economic attraction. I mean, people come in from all over. I see buses come from Connecticut with, a busload of people, mostly sort of seniors, coming up for a weekend in the fall to see the foliage and to see the covered bridges, and they stop and take pictures, and I think it's great. I love to see them, but without that, I think we'd be ashamed to lose that little bit of history. And there are people that are committed to preserving them too. So I think you'd get an argument if you wanted to take one of the bridges down.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you may know, we do have a committee that Jim is a part of that's looking into ways that we can prevent people or encourage people with vehicles that are oversized to go a different direction. They're looking at a couple of alternatives now that we'll bring forward.
It's hard. I mean, you look down at Storrow Drive in Boston, where they've been dealing with the problem. It's a particular problem in August and September when you have a lot of students driving, U-Haul trucks and ripping the top open like a can opener. They have electronic lights and bells. They have a bar that hangs down over the road before you get to the bridge that when you hit it, it tells you, and people still drive past it and go and they rip the top off their trucks. So it's a difficult thing to get everybody to comply. But there are some things like I know that people driving trucks, delivery trucks, don't have the right information on their GPS to know that you can't go through those bridges. The problems, lots of people think that, okay, I'm only a little bit over, I'll try it. and it's, I think that the idea of a fine, I know, I've had some friends that have driven through that with a trailer. Oh, it's just this little tiny trailer. I said, but people drag those things, and they track inside the radius of the truck, and they end up clipping the sides as you go out. I have persuaded them that they should not do that anymore because there's a potential serious fine if they get caught. So, word of mouth is one thing. That's one way to get it. Of course, somebody coming into the area for the first time, they don't get the word of mouth.
They don't
Signage,
see it.
I don't know.
We have been doing pretty good preventing a lot of local people going over them. We made it an issue loud enough for the public to start talking about it. They've been driving over these bridges for many years with no consequences, and it's just known, you can go over that, you can go over that. You need fines, you need people out there giving some tickets out, and watch how the word would get out. You need to, those were built so many years ago when there wasn't a lot of cars. Now we have everything, we have much more traffic on Matthews Road going over that than we did in the old days. And
So the research we did for the
they're outgrown.
bills last year, it's that the Sawyer's Crossing Bridge is the highest volume of any one-way bridge in the state. It's one-way covered bridge.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's
That's interesting.
3,500 cars a day, something like that.
Oh my God.
If I remember right.
Yeah, that's what I mean, the roads were built differently.
Yeah, that's.
You had one
that's
car in a
major road.
household back then. When I grew up, if you had a car in your house, now everybody has 4 and 5 cars. We had a single driveway back in those days. Everybody has cars. So, it's a lot of traffic.
Well, cars aren't the problem there, it's probably,
Yeah, it's the trucks, I know.
people who used to have a little car now have a, 8-ton Super Duty 350, whatever. The issue came up, the size of vehicles in general is increasing, the size of what we're buying anyway. Size and weight, and you just gotta kind of do what you can to accommodate that.
And there's so many different ideas, we talk about putting those metal barriers up so when the truck goes through, it hits it. But then people want to take pictures and they take away from the looks of it, So you get an argument on every which way you decide to go. There's got to be an answer how we can fix this problem, because it's bad. Look at the one that just got hit here. That was terrible. We just fixed it and then it got hit again. It's a lot of money.
Well, we appreciate your effort with the cameras, because we do have Sawyer's Crossing Road cameraed, and we will be putting cameras, if the voters approve the budget, in the other bridges this year. The challenge we have is enforcement, so at least the cameras help if there's damage. We don't have the means to weigh vehicles. We can't use the cameras for vehicles with tow. It would be helpful if that could be added on, because at least it would give us the opportunity to deal with it the way we're dealing with the damage that vehicles cause.
So, if you cause damage with a vehicle in tow, that's still the accelerated damage.
If we had the camera, but
Yeah, you can catch it.
but if they don't create, we know they're creating vibrational damage. So, but if they don't create physical damage, we have no
Right.
recourse unless there's an officer there to see it.
Yep.
But if the legislation could be broadened, that would be
Yeah,
helpful.
that was actually Jennifer's committee. The committee is very sensitive about privacy issues. The idea of having cameras that are going to keep track of where people go and when, touchy subject in the state. So we felt we had to limit the use of that camera video to a specific purpose to avoid the people fearing that they're going to get caught heading to the bar when they told them they were going to church or something.
Right.
Whatever people were.
That doesn't happen in Swansea.
No. That's all I had. Anything else? But I think maybe you come back again in November, December, as we start knowing what bills are coming out. I think you get informed of things from municipal association, things like that, but just to get an idea of what we should be perhaps co-sponsoring or speaking on.
That would be helpful.
Appreciate your input.
You're always welcome, Barry, and if we know there's issues having to do with land use, we could have our planner here to speak on behalf of that. We appreciate you coming in, and whatever you can do to help, we're here to help you. We appreciate your service. We know it's a lot of time, a lot of effort.
All right, great.
Thanks, Barry.
You got
County Commissioner, or County Administrator, excuse me, Chris Coates. Hello, Cheryl.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Good.
How's that doing?
Evening.
You have a copy?
Yeah.
My name, Cheryl Luna.
What am I looking for, Chris?
No, you've got it.
You got it.
I just wondered if Bill has it.
I had it.
I'll share it if he's good to me, Chris.
I have all kinds of copies.
I'll take it. I know I've got it here somewhere. Thank you, Chris.
If I may just go a little off script here for a second, just a few things. First and foremost, if the commissioners would introduce themselves, that would be great, starting with Terry.
Terry Clark.
Hi, Terry.
Terry.
Skip Bernardo.
Welcome, Skip.
Claudia Stewart.
Hello,
And
Claudia.
Representative, thank you for being here tonight. Also, you were talking about housing, and you said 500 units, and I always say, you build 500 units, that really in the world of housing means about 800 because people are moving from another place. And you gotta subtract a few that live with their parents or live with somebody else. But they're opening up other spaces too. So what you're doing here is incredibly important to the county as a whole. And you guys have been a leader in that over the last few years, and we thank you for that because it's critical for us to continue to battle this whole housing thing. It's gonna be a generational thing that we're gonna have to continue to wrestle with, but you guys have taken it straight on and really made a difference, so we can't thank you enough for that. And the other thing is, you should know this, because you probably don't hear this a lot, but you guys are the role models of town or community right now, because you're aggressive. We talked about this, Bill, earlier today. You're aggressive at a time when many people will say, I don't know if we should be or not, and somehow you're balancing that all in. And aggressive means that you're taking a look at how to make this community stronger. And because if you sit back and say, oh, we can't do anything, that hole gets even deeper and harder to get out of. And if you look around what you've done, it's simple things. That roundabout over by the school has transformed that whole area over there. It's just beautiful over there, along with a new elementary school, I get it. But even before that, it was just, and there's just throughout this community. This hall is a great example of community coming together to do something that's good for the community as a whole. So again, we have so many incredible communities in Cheshire County that have opportunity to grow even that much more. And you guys have said, how do we continue to move forward? So I just want you to be recognized for that, because sometimes it takes a little bit of courage and sometimes it takes a lot of work to see how you can do it and stay within the framework of how we can continue to have people meet their bills and everything else that we're struggling with. And hopefully today we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Thank you, Chris.
So we come before you because we are constantly trying to figure out how to tell our story from the county. And, once a month I'm on the radio. We're doing a podcast, and the podcast really is telling the story of the county. So anybody can take a look at any of the podcasts we do, and they can learn about the nursing home, they can learn about the DOC, whatever it may be. We did that on purpose because that's where people are at today. We are
Chris,
constantly...
for people that don't know the acronym, could you explain DOC?
Department of Corrections, sorry.
Thanks.
And so we're doing radio, we're doing podcasts, we're doing media, and in media, what we mean by that is we are constantly getting out press releases, trying to tell the story of what we're doing in the community And we think it's working, but we also felt like we needed to come up with a document that really breaks it down for everybody to understand in real simple ways what we are, what we do, and how we've done it. And on the back side of this document is financials, and we'll go through that too. Why Cheryl's here. But we really think it's important, and we've gone to multiple towns now, and they really appreciated that they have a tool. You'll have a tool when somebody comes up and says, I don't understand. You'll have that tool with you, or you'll have the knowledge of what we're presenting you tonight. So I'm going to get into this. I'm not going to go department by department, but many people don't know that we have 20 departments in Cheshire County that do different things, from the Sheriff's Department to nursing home and other departments. I'm going to pick a few out just to talk about them real quickly. Maplewood Nursing Home. Currently, our census is about 112 to 115. It should be around 150. It can go up to 150, but since I've been here, 130, 135 is probably the highest numbers that I remember. It could have been higher, but that's what I remember. But due to staffing issues, we keep them at a certain number to meet the quality of care that we have been known for years and years and years. But what a lot of people don't know are two things. One, we have 20 apartments that are assisted living. People don't know that, but we should be telling that story, because we have, and it's for anybody. You could be, if you're Medicaid eligible, you can be in those apartments too. And what's the cool thing about that? You have an assisted living that's attached to a nursing home. In a lot of situations, we have one individual that needs to be in the nursing home and the other one that's not quite ready to be there. So they're right around the corner and assisted living in their own apartments. It makes a huge difference. And what other people don't know too is that the county doesn't really have to have a nursing home, but we're responsible for any individual that is eligible for Medicaid that needs to be in a nursing home or home care. And that's about 270 people that we cover those costs, and that's state driven. That is statutorily driven that we do that. And but we do the nursing home, as do the other 9 counties, because if we didn't, your loved one may not be in our communities. We also feel it's fiscally more prudent to do it, but more importantly, we want the loved ones to be able to drive up to Westmoreland and family to be able to see their loved ones up there in the home. And we're quite proud of the work that's done up at Maplewood. Department of Corrections. Department of Corrections, currently we have a census of about 100 to 110. You break that down, you have anywhere between 40 to 60 local individuals that stay at our fine hotel on the hill, as we call it. And then you have we also have federal contracts to house federal inmates with Vermont, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and I believe Maine too. And and the majority of our individuals are coming from Vermont. And what does that do? Well, as I said, we'd have 60 in our corrections facility. We don't change our oversight numbers because we have federal inmates. The number is what it is because we have pods. We have eyes in the sky. So you have one person maybe in with the population. We have 3 pods for males up there, and then 1 pod for females. And classification tells you where you're going to go. And I would have the superintendent come and tell you exactly what classifications were, because I have my own standard. And so those federal inmates generate the revenue also. About $2 million this year is going to be coming in that we can utilize to help offset taxes. So that's a good thing. Cheshire County EMS, I think you know it quite well. We're running 5 ambulances and 1 paramedic intercept. We're doing 911 calls. We're doing interfacility transfers for somebody that needs to go from Cheshire Medical. Well, let's start with the 911. Somebody in Swanzey is taking Cheshire Medical. Cheshire Medical says they need to be transferred up to Lebanon. or to New York, or to Boston, wherever there's a bed available, we are taking them there. We also partner with Smart Ride, which is a wheelchair service, because if we realize on two levels that if you don't have a wheelchair service, you're using ambulances for wheelchair transports. That's taking an ambulance off for a 911 call. So Smart Ride was a company that probably was averaging about 30 to 50 runs a week. They're now running 30 to 50 runs a day. Last year they did about 13,000 wheelchair transfers. This year on target for about 16,000 transfers. That's good. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to develop a continuum of care that meets all the needs, and we believe that that is the case in Cheshire County, and we're going to continue to do what we need to do. Operationally, we are where we need to be, and as you read the newspaper, for the last 2 quarters, we've been in the black, which is ahead of where we thought we would be, and it's on the right direction. Are we there yet? No. But are we getting a better understanding every single day? Yes. So we're excited about that. Another program is Connected Families. Connected Families is a grant program that we started about 7 years ago. It was to work with kids that are at risk of out-of-district placement in our schools. And we go in and we work with the families in coordination with the school, but we work with the families. We wrap around the families and support them and the child so that that child has the best chance of staying in the community. Why that's important? That's obvious, the child. It supports the family. A lot of times the level of stress that's going in that family can rip a family apart. But also you've been involved, you've probably participated at the school budget sessions that they have. It can get heated when you talk about special ed. Out-of-district placements can cost anywhere between, per child, $200,000 to $500,000 in your special ed cost for one child. That can rip families, neighbors, and communities apart about a child that's in need. If we can help with that, that makes a community stronger. And the state liked it so much. First of all, it was a grant, and if the grant was going to end and we couldn't get a daily rate from the state, Department of Health and Human Services, the program was going to stop. But we worked with the state. They liked what we were doing. They gave us a daily rate. The daily rate covers the cost. So there's no tax dollars going into this program directly from Cheshire County. There may be, because of the state and funding and all that, but it's not directly. And the state liked the work that we're doing so much, they said, could you do it in Sullivan County? Okay. Can you do it in Grafton County? All right. Can you do it across the state? So a program that started in Cheshire County, continues to be in Cheshire County, is now statewide, and we went from 2 individuals, we're working towards staffing of, I think there's about 28 right now in there, but we're heading towards 40 to go across the state. They generate revenue. That revenue comes back to us, pays for the program, and any other revenue generated by that program goes back to taxes. So we think it helps everything and meets our mission of creating programming that's not putting pressure on community taxpayers at the same time. The Sheriff's Dispatch, Sheriff's Department and Sheriff's Dispatch, the thing I'll say about that is a lot of county government is evolving. Whether we like it or not, it is evolving. And you're going to hear that all the time from me. We didn't ever think we would be in the EMS business, but we are. We are policing in 4 towns in Cheshire County. Those towns pay for that service, but we're in 4 towns in Cheshire County. We're also the SRO, I believe, at Monadnock High School. It hasn't started yet, okay, but they've asked us to put a person in that position at Monadnock High School. At the same time, we're doing truancy for SAU 29, the Keene School District. And that person's based in the middle school and goes out to schools that are, kids that don't show up at school, that you get a knock by the sheriff deputy and say, why aren't you in school? We didn't have an idea that we're going to be doing that, but that's where we are today. We're trying to do as best we can, and within the fiscal realities that we have, we're trying to meet the needs of our community as best we can. I'm going to skip most everything else. There's a lot here from finance, the county attorney's office, but you can look at that, and if you want me to come back in greater detail someday, I will. But I want to just down here underneath departments as programs, we also were the first county in Cheshire, in the state to change legislation so we could become part of the CPC&H, so Community Power Coalition. I want to say collaborative all the time. Coalition of New Hampshire. And a lot of the credit goes to Commissioner Clark because he really spearheaded this. And this is something that we just wanted to be part of it so we could get the best benefit for our community. But what we realized is towns could join us, and they had to opt in. And a lot of time, in the residents, a lot of times when you join, you're automatically in, but you had to opt in instead of opting out. And that's, I think, fair. People can make that decision. And the communities that have come in, it's been wonderful. But what's more important is, I believe there's at least 3 and possibly 4 other counties that have joined this along with us after we were in place. So, we try not to be a leader, but we try to do what's right. And if others see that it's right and they join us, I think that's great. The Handyman program is a program that we started 8 years ago, and it really, we took some monies that are not Cheshire County taxpayer monies, set it aside, and if a person has a health crisis and they can't get back in their home and they're stuck in the hospital and they need bars in their bathrooms, they need a bathtub renovation, or if they need a ramp. We partnered with ServiceLink, who works with the healthcare and elderly, to go into that situation, make an assessment of that, come back, turn it over to Southwest Community Service, who has their weatherization team, who are vetted contractors, to go in and do the work. We partnered with the hospital as a referral agent, and why is that important? Because if we can move people that are stuck in the beds in the hospital, 2 years ago, Cheshire Medical lost 3,500 bed days where they couldn't move people. That's a financial loss to the hospital. We want to be able to do that. We see this as a continuum of care because we don't want to see them for the first time in a nursing home because they can't get into their home. It's a limited amount of money every year. I will tell you that we've already reached our financial point for this year. But it's a program that, again, we partnered with the community. They then send us the invoice, we pay it out, and we've done multiple houses here in Swanzey, and it's been a real success. I want to go back to Connected Families for a second because the commissioners saw Connected Families as an opportunity, as a continuum of care. A lot of these kids that are high risk out of district placements, where do they end up? In our drug courts, in our dealing with our sheriff's department, in our county attorney's office. It's just they're high risk kids in our corrections facility. So this is what we always are looking to see, how it can be a continuum of care. And we thought if we could get to them early, that's a good thing.
And the handyman program is only targeted to people that are low income. We don't just go in, anybody coming out that has the money to be able to do this to their house, but.
Right, and I agree, right, thank you for that. Then over here, you'll see that we have 465 employees. I will tell you that number should be higher, but like everybody else, we're struggling to should be closer to 500, and we're just having a hard time finding people, and most of that is at the nursing home. But there are some other places that we're struggling too.
Is that where you need the people at the nursing home?
Yeah.
That would be the majority.
Yeah, the majority of them, yes.
Yeah.
But this breaks it down by percentage of, how many employees are in that each department. And then down below here, we just put some recognitions that you should be aware of. That in 2024, the National Association of Counties Achievement recognized Cheshire County with the Achievement Award for the creation of the first county-run EMS program in New England. Not New Hampshire, but New England. And then also that they recognized, also in 2024, which is unusual that they gave 2 awards to a county, we were told, for the NACO Achievement Award for the National Association of Counties for the Handyman program to support the ability of low-income people to live in their homes after a health crisis with accessible home modifications. And this year we were recognized again for the restorative justice programming, that program that we have now in the county not just individuals that have been victimized by an individual, to see if they can come together in a group setting and have that person hear the damage they've done in a very therapeutic way. But we're also working with school districts, like this, Keens High School, to really have them take a look at how they're looking at, working with individuals that, get into a situation, and employers that have hard dynamics in the workplace, and if we can have people come in and work through those waves. And Patrick Keenahan is the individual who heads up the program and has done a great job with that. I'm flipping over to the other side. And the other side is we really wanted to show you some numbers. And we initially just said, okay, if we looked at 2019 to 2025, where have we come when it comes to increases in taxes to be raised by the county? And then it took on a life of its own. We said, well, how do we compare with the rest of the state? We don't know. So we did the research, and we came out, and as you can see, what last year, what was your increase of taxes to be raised, Bill?
5.5%.
5%. So if you look at 2019, our increase of taxes to be raised was 0.73. The next year was 1.39. The next year was a 0% increase. The next year was 1.31. The next year was 0% increase to taxes to be raised. The next year was a negative 0.9% increase. And last year was 3.4, and that's the reality of what we're seeing across the spectrum financially. We have to be competitive. 86% of our budget is
Payroll.
Salaries
Benefits,
and benefits.
which you can reflect with the number of employees that we employ countywide.
And I want to point out that the chair of the executive committee, the group that actually, the 10 individuals out of the full delegation of 22, is Barry. And he is the one that really walks us through, after it goes through the commissioner's budget review, we go through the delegation's budget review, and Barry is the chair of that committee. So when you look at where things are at over the last 2 years, what is that? That's 6 years or 7? 7 years, right? 7 years, the total increase of taxes to be raised is 0.97, less than 1% increase to taxes to be raised. Now Cheryl's going to get into the other side of it, of it goes someplace and they have formulas, but fiscally we do work extremely hard to try to understand what the fiscal realities are that are facing our communities. I will later on to talk to you about some challenges that we're looking at that you're probably seeing the same thing. But I want you to know that between the commissioners and the delegation, they work extremely hard to take a look at how we can continue to move our county forward, meet the needs that are being asked of us, and do it in a way that doesn't overtax the burden, or put the burden on the taxpayer even that much more. So Cheryl, do you want to talk about the Swanzey breakdown and then the statutorial?
Yes.
Before you do, I just have a quick question. One of the challenges that we have in our budget is the general welfare budget, which seems to be rising significantly. Do you have anyone that, we have a new director coming in starting next week. Is there anyone that she could reach out to get some ideas on programs that we might put in place that could help us to accomplish what you're accomplishing?
Have her reach out to me to start with, and then, because I'm in touch with everybody from the community, you name it, and I will tell you that just in August, we know food insecurity is really crucial right now. We know that that $100 bill you used to spend at the grocery store to get 20 items is now 12 items. We know that that's not going to change in the near future. We know that's putting a stressor on families to make sure that their kids are being fed. We also know that people is making a harder choice between getting my meds or being able to eat. We know that just the first weekend alone at the community kitchen, they saw an increase of individuals coming in to get food baskets by 200 people.
Which weekend?
The first weekend in September. I met with them last week. We also knew that this was a concern, and the delegation, the executive committee, there was a motion brought forward to added $20,000 to help them with a program they're doing called Pop-Up Community Kitchen, where they go out into communities, because a lot of times if you can't get into Keene, then and your pantry may not be able to get the foods they need. There's a lot of exciting things that are happening down the road that I would want to, touch base with this individual so that I can guide them to where they need to go, because there's some really great ideas that are being talked about that are going to, hopefully, meet needs in different ways. But as community leaders, we are going to be pressed more and more to help with outside agency funding. And food insecurity is probably at the top of the list. So I'll help in any way I can.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah. So, Cheryl.
Before you stick it, Chris, I just want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for what you do. I just had an incident that you guys come out and helped my mother, and you took her out, and I told Bill I was blown away of the people that work for you guys. That they were extraordinary. They were kind. It was just amazing to me of the training that goes involved and how you guys handled a bad situation my family was in, and I just want to compliment you on that.
Thank you.
And the other thing is that I called Joe today, our chief of police, and talked about the school and having somebody in that school. Can you just go a little more into that you're looking into that they called you for some help over there?
Yeah.
Because I just got off the phone with, I called Joe.
I don't want to get into the politics of it all, but I think it was because they were concerned that that would be taking a man off yours to put in the school. And could we come somehow, if we're already doing it for truancy, and that person works, is a retired police officer who has become a deputy, who works 180 days a year, correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, I think.
That's what they do for SAA 29.
For SAA 29, why couldn't we do the same thing here? Only do it for the period of time the school is in session.
Yeah, because I called, it was funny you brought that up, because I made the phone call today to talk to him about that, because I was trying to come up with some ideas in other towns around, maybe we share it, or somehow how are we gonna get some, but being so short-handed as we are, we just can't fill that spot.
Right.
And I think that a person in that school is a big part of it, and they have to have good training and have to deal with the kids, and I think it's gonna be a big, important part of the school.
A lot of us grew up with the idea of your neighborhood police officer, and I don't see this any different. You have these individuals that are in this community. Yes, they're a police officer, but they've become normalized as a safe environment. And I strongly recommend that we have those situations. I was on the school board when we brought in the first SRO for the city of Keene, or the Keene High School, and it was there was some concern, but the bottom line is the individuals that you put in there, and you had a great one on Rob. But I mean, he became part of the fabric. He had a mission, he had a job to do, but he also became part of the fabric. People could just come talk to him. At lunchtime, you'd see him talking with students at lunch. I mean, it was normal. And so...
that was one of the things Joe was talking to me about today, how that position is important, that the person relates to the kids and he's there to talk to them, and there's more than him just going in there with a badge and standing there and no intimidation, but more of getting involved, and it's a big part.
And I also think it's important because in this day and age, social media is such an evil thing in my world. Others may feel differently, and that's fine. We can have that conversation because it portrays certain situations in certain ways, and I think it's not been fair to sometimes police officers can be portrayed this way, and all of a sudden you have this person in your school, and it's like, man, he's really cool. He's coming to watch us play. The volleyball team play tonight, or the basketball team play tonight, or the football, whatever it is. Just becomes part of that canvas that is, and I think it's in it, and there's a safety level there too. At the same time,
It's exciting to hear that.
yeah. So if we can find the right person, and it's still something they want, then
Yeah, I know, I think that it was something that was reached out to our sheriff probably about a year ago, and I don't know where the talks went, so.
Yeah.
So I think probably the ball might be in the courts of.
And I'll touch touch base with the sheriff tomorrow to see where it's at. I'll get back to you.
Would be great.
All right. So Cheryl,
So, thank you again for letting us come here and speak to you. You know, we just really did feel like, as we go around to the different towns, there are a lot of people, and of course there's turnover of select persons throughout the community that just don't know what county government does. And so all they see is a portion on their tax bill that is paying into the county, and I feel like many people just think we're the city of Keene, and they're not quite sure what we do. So Chris,
or we're government,
yeah,
and we just get locked in.
yeah. So Chris gave an overview of the departments that we run, and the majority of the departments that we do run are statutorily required. There's an entire chapter in the New Hampshire Revised Statutes that dictate the things that we have to do, such as we have to have Department of Corrections, we have to have a Sheriff's Department, we have to have a County Attorney's Office, we have to have a Registry of Deeds, and of course support staff to support those functions. We don't technically have to run a nursing home, but as Chris said, all 10 counties have, and we've been doing this for over 200 years. It wasn't necessarily per se a nursing home back then. We are known as a poor farm, which was kind of a combination between our jail and people that just needed places to stay and care, and that ended up evolving. We are responsible for, as Chris mentioned, the cost to care for residents living in nursing homes that need Medicaid assistance, and the cost of care living at home that need Medicaid assistance to care for them in their home and community-based setting. And that is one of our largest expenses, where we pay outward to all the providers in the community over $8 million for the non-federal share of the Medicaid assistance for people living in nursing homes and home and community-based care. That is how the state of New Hampshire divvies it up. Other states, the state actually handles all the Medicaid expenses, but in the state of New Hampshire, the county is the one that is responsible to pay for the nursing home and home and community-based care non-federal share. So this pie chart, before I go up to the tax breakdown, this pie chart here shows the percentage of the expenses of, or where our county tax dollars go as to what is statutorily required in those functions that are not statutorily required. I will say it does show that the nursing home portion is statutorily required, but as I mentioned, it's not. So it has evolved in that manner. But when you get your tax bill, there's different components of it. You have your town portion, what goes towards paying for your town services, the local education, the state education, and the county. The net valuation is what is used for what you end up collecting and putting on the tax bill. So the overall tax rate, and this would have been for last year, because the tax rates haven't been set yet for 2025, I'm sure they're getting close, are $19.06. What further is done to all those different components are the state has to equalize it. And what they do, they equalize it for different purposes, and they equalize it for shared expenses, for example, county expenses, because the county, our tax collection in order to operate the county taxes, county operations for 2025 was just over $30 million. So that $30 million then has to get divvied out to all the towns in the city of Keene, but on an equalized proportion. The reason why they equalize it is because each town and the city has to do reevaluate their property values every 5 years. But so when you do your revaluation on the 5th year, that's getting them back to as close to 100% of the market value as possible. But during those other years, the property valuations start to get further away, whether it's up or down, depending on if the market's going higher or lower. So the Department of Revenue Administration does this process. It's very complex. I can't speak to it, but it's a whole process where they do an equalization so that what has to be collected specifically for county, and I think probably education is similar, is equally shared to acknowledge the fact that the markets are off, or the property valuations are off based on the market. So that's why you see something different from the net valuation to the equalized valuation. From there, the equalized valuation of each of the towns and city is totaled. And for instance, the 2024 equalized valuations that have just been submitted to the Department of Revenue Administration that's going to be used for the 2025 tax rates, total combined in the town, in the county are $14 billion. So it's just over $14 billion worth of property. The town of Swanzey holds about 1.1 billion of that. So your property valuation represents 7.6957% of the overall property valuation, and as such, you get a bill for 7.6957% of our $30 million overall tax bill. So that is how the Department of Revenue Administration breaks down and determines what each town and city pays. I am happy to tell you, even though we had a $1 million increase in taxes to be raised, or a 3.5% increase, the town of Swanzey overall amount is going down $172,000 for what you'll end up receiving from us. And that's all as a comparison to your property valuations rising or not rising as high as others. And it could be because other towns are adding new property, or that they finally got a reevaluation that may not have been as in sync, and so it's bumped their percentage up. So it's kind of a complicated process. I do send a letter out that gives a 3-year analysis of showing the current year and the prior 2 years, so you can see how your property is taxed, or your valuations are apportioned to the overall county amount that we have to collect. But basically, once our numbers go out of the door, it's the Department of Revenue Administration that sets the rate based on what your percentages of the overall valuations of all property in Cheshire County.
So the bottom line, for me, the easiest way I look at it is I can control the budget, but once it goes to Concord, it's Department of Revenue Administration that has their own formula. But if we do our job, then your hit is going to be what it is, less than. Again, if it was 5 or 6%, it would be that much worse. So in reality, when you look at net valuation, the town per thousand is $5.16. Local education is $10.26. The state education is another $1.17, and the county's portion is $2.47. And so I said 20 departments, 500 employees, and it's the responsibility is evolving. So we are trying to do everything we can, but we do have challenges. And the challenges are that we have a nursing home, we have a DOC, and we are feeling the same pain that I said earlier when it comes to food. We have to feed individuals, and those prices are going up. We're going into budget season. So anything we promise you here, this year is going to be completely different. We're going to be taking those on. We also know that with the big beautiful bill, there were some things that came out of it that can hurt us. And one of those things is that a lot of times we have individuals that come in, and if they're Medicaid eligible, they're pending until the state writes that off and says, yes, they are eligible for Medicaid. And until that is, they're in there, we're caring for them, but we're not getting any revenue. And that sometimes can go the long distance of 6 months before we see that the state gets their decision in. And we used to be able to recoup 90 days of that funding, and in the big beautiful bill, they brought that down to 30. What does that mean? Well, Well, we have we're very conservative, it could be higher, but we said there's usually about 10 people waiting pending their eligibility. That's about a $300,000 to $400,000 loss that we're now going to feel because of that. It could be higher.
Explain this a little better to me. So you're saying if you held them for 6 months, and then
Yeah.
they come back to reimburse you, you only get a portion of that?
Let me kind of
She's a
clarify
money
a little
person,
bit.
so I'm gonna let her go into this.
So it's a little different than that. So basically what happens is when a person is admitted to a nursing home, at many times in ours anyway, they're pending Medicaid, they're going through the process. It has always been a stipulation that there is a 3-month retro allowance or 90-day allowance, so that as they're going through the process, if they find something is off, so if you did an application today and then all of a sudden you find out that something is off maybe 2 months down the road, you can start that process all over again and ask for a 90-day retroactive. And so it kind of helps as a buffer, because it's an incredibly, very complicated process to go through the Medicaid process. They've cut that down to 30 days. So basically what is happening, and we have it happen so many times, it can take months and months and upwards to 6 and even longer that all of a sudden we'll get a decision from the state of New Hampshire that somebody's been approved or that they finally looked at their stuff. What the concern is it's also been that far out that all of a sudden they say, okay, Joe Schmo, we finally went through their application. They are not under resources because of X, Y, and Z. And so therefore, rather than being able to go back 90 days to start over, now we've only got a 30-day window. So we could be losing, we've already lost in many cases where somebody, didn't qualify because maybe they're $1,000 over. I mean, it's crazy things. But now that they've cut a very complex process with a 90-day grace period down to a 30-day grace period, and they don't even have the resources to get these things evaluated till sometimes 6, 8, 9 months later. We're going to be looking at more cases that we'll probably have been giving care that we will not be able to bill for because we found that something went awry. We don't have people coming in the door stashing money in their pockets, and I think that happens in some of the communities in the state because they've got more money and people are trying to give it to family members, but not around here. It's usually a misunderstanding, somebody not understanding the process, and once you only have $5,000 in the bank, you can't get blood from a stone to pay for the nursing home that we've just been providing care for.
Right. And they've asked that we now, twice a year, do eligibility instead of once a year.
Yeah, and that's not going to be for nursing homes. It's going to be for other Medicaid. But again, the resources are so strapped at the state to even be able to do their job now, having to go through 2 revaluations to prove that you're Medicaid eligible. Not only is it going to cause for probably that level of clientele, I mean, I'm sorry to say that they probably won't even do those, so they'll lose their Medicaid. It's just, I'm just concerned that there's not enough resources to do what they're doing now, and then having to do this revalidation twice a year is going to be more resources that they don't have.
And the other concern we have is on the state level, all the county nursing homes pay up to a certain point, a cap. And if we get to that cap, then the state pays moving on. And in our negotiation every budget period, we've always agreed upon a 2%. We've always been able to get to that 2% increase every year. So the cap does continue to raise. That means we have to go and meet that. This year, they added in another percentage, which doesn't sound like a lot, 3% instead of 2%. But that's a $4.4 million increase that is split between 10 counties that now we have to continue to pay up to get to before the state will start paying off. These are things that are just going to put stressors on us. We don't know what it means yet, but we know that's the reality, and there's probably other things. We work hard to try to figure out, and we will continue, and I'll end on a more positive note, because you see below this that projects that have been completed, and I think this is the thing that we've been blessed with. We have a great grants department that does wonderful things. You know, we had the sheriff's dispatch upgrades at the sheriff, which we talked about before. It was a $4.4 million upgrade to the telecommunications on the towers so that the police can talk to each other and talk to the dispatch. It was to a point where we were going on eBay to replace parts. We had Motorola come in. They gave us a quote. We were able to then move forward, and through grants, we were able to raise $4.4 million so that the taxpayers didn't take that burden on. The Southwest, you know, we did our job so well that Southwest Fire Mutual Aid is in the same boat. They asked us if we could help them with that. Theirs is $4.8 million, and currently we're at about $2.7 million that we've identified to help them offset the cost. What does that mean to you as a paying community into Southwest Fire Mutual Aid? If they had to bond all of that they were telling us that was about a 300% increase in what you currently are paying. So if we can take the pain off that, our communities, I think we're doing the right thing. We believe we can. Our goal is to get to 3.8 million, and see where we're at that point. We think we believe we have a lead to get that last million. It'll take some finagling, but we've been able to get Governor Sununu to give us a 1.25, and we've been able to get Senator Shaheen to give us 936,000, and Congresswoman Goodlander $600,000. That's helping our communities, and so. And we've been told the last two are in the budget that they're working on currently, so that's a good thing. The courthouse renovations, $1.6 million. We were able to do that through grants so that it didn't go to the taxpayers. Historical window renovations, we had 82 windows in our old courthouse. We were able to restore them, and that was we were able to raise the monies locally and get a grant to help offset the cost there. And then the energy HVA upgrades, again, was done. 2.3 of that upgrade was able to do through grants and other financial mechanisms. And just on a note, we were notified by the company that did the work on this that we are a finalist for across the nation for the energy upgrades that we did. We didn't know that they entered us, but they entered us. And it's down to 4 out of like 5 or 6 or 700 applications to be the example of how best to do energy efficiency and a way that financially meets the needs of your community at the same time. So we didn't know until actually Friday. I'll tell you guys about it tomorrow. But we're pretty excited about that. So that's where we're at. I will tell you one last thing. We have a grants program. We have a grants director. She's more than willing to work in your communities when you have something, but more importantly, we started a grant writing course 3 years ago. We have now trained 70 people in Cheshire County to be able to write grants. The reason we did that is because we were getting overwhelmed. We thought if we teach and strengthen it, then the ship will rise. And we're excited. We have been told that we've been praised for the grant program, and that's all Suzanne Bansley, our grant director. But more importantly, one individual has communicated that prior to the grant writing course, she had written multiple grants and got 1 out of like 10. The next 6 she wrote, she landed. So if that means we can generate more revenue back here for nonprofits in towns and others, that's a benefit to everybody else, and that's what we should be doing. So we'll take questions if you have them. If not, then we'll let you go on with your evening.
There was a lot of information.
You're welcome.
No, but it was really good information. It's amazing. That's great. I'm impressed.
Appreciate you coming in.
All right, thank you.
You guys are welcome here anytime.
Yeah.
26 budget. So we have a proposal, Sue, you all set? We have a proposal from Emergency Management Director Kevin Westcott to purchase radios. We have the money available in expendable trust. So, any discussion? You all had a chance to see it? Any discussion? Ready for motion?
Is there a brand that goes in where those X's are?
Apparently. Apparently.
Should we just say two
It's
radios?
What is the X's mean?
Kenwood Viking.
What?
The radios are Kenwood Viking.
Oh, gosh. I'm glad Jim didn't see that. He would have had a different meeting. Yeah, we're essentially approving the quote that he has from R&R Construction. Do you have that? Communications, do you have that? Okay. Ready?
Sure. I move to authorize the purchase of 2 radios in the amount of $5,651 for the Emergency Management Department, with the funds coming from the Emergency Management Facilities and Equipment Expandable Trust Fund, and to further authorize the Emergency Management Director to sign all documents pertaining to the purchase.
Second.
The motion I had was a little bit authorize the, to come from emergency communications expendable fund. Is that not how you read it?
What we have is Emergency Management Facilities and Equipment Expendable Trust.
All right, she must have changed it after sending mine, so I'll update mine.
Does yours include having the Emergency Management Director sign the necessary documents?
Yeah, it's just the fund, I guess, that
Yeah.
is written after.
Would it be helpful if Mark reread it for you? Or that part of it?
Emergency management facilities.
And Equipment Expandable Trust Fund.
Expendable trust fund, okay, that right there.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lori, had she been here, would let us know that she's in process. She's preparing a request for proposal for IT management services. Our current contract with Twin Bridges expires at the end of the year, and the lead on Twin Bridges is retiring. So we'd be going out for an RFP regardless. So we need a motion.
I move to approve the RFP for IT management services.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next item, Sue, is signing a deed from the town of Swanzey
Okay.
to the Kathy A. Nicholson Living Trust. This was for a project that was done, I believe, in 2018. We did a boundary line adjustment between the police department and the Nicholson home. That was approved and done in 2018, but we didn't update the deed. And the Nicholson family is selling that property, and they need the deed in order to have a clean title.
I move to approve and sign the quitclaim deed for the town of Swansea for consideration paid grants to Kathy A. Nichols, trustee of the Kathy A. Nichols Living Trust, dated March 24th, 2022, of Eaton Road, Swansea, New Hampshire.
Second.
We all set with that, Sue? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anything else? Don't think we have any more public input unless Kai wants to say something. No? Maybe we have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?